Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Actually, I was not sure if last week I said no class or class. So that's why, since I was not sure, I thought I will join anyways and see if we have something planned. Did I say last week that we don't have program this week?
No, Prabhuji.
I didn't say anything like that. Oh. Mahibha Prabhu, did you recover from past 2 days?
No, bro, still body pains are there. Body pains are still there.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy actually, kind of. The situation. I'm also trying to recover after coming here. But very happy to see all of you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Deepika Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam. Did you all go to local temples for Janmashtami celebration?
Yes, Prabhuji, we went.
Midnight?
We stayed till midnight. It was a good celebration. And we did some services also, Prabhuji.
Yes. Mama.
From September here, kids Sunday school will start. So I've enrolled Krishna also. From next month, he'll start going to Sunday school.
How old is Krishna now, Mataji?
He'll be 4 in September, Prabhuji.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm just trying to open the presentation. We will be discussing the 8th verse today, which is kind of quite deep in itself. Maybe very quick, short kirtan for your other Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadhari Jaya Giri Varadhari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Giri Varadhari Jayo Giri Varadhari Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Jayo Braja जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुना वनचारी यमुना वनचारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Paad ki Jai, Gaur Jai Gaur ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरो वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजाता सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Nangayate Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Bande Shri Guru Dinatarina Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So how to utilize one's mind? This is a very deep verse. I don't know to what extent we can access that understanding. We will see. Purpose behind all previous instructions. Why to control the mind, how to control the mind, and the 5 stages from hearing to perfection. Ragmark. This verse introduces us and it is described in more detail in our next uh, future discussions of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So, as we see that this nectar of instruction, just like those who have heard, there are 8 instructions given by Lord Chaitanya. Those 8 verses, they take us from the very beginning stages of Shraddha or faith. Our devotional life begins with faith to all the way up to uh, the love for Krishna, love of God, Krishna Prema, which is the goal. Likewise, this nectar of instruction, also there are 11 verses that takes us from the very beginning Shraddha all the way up to Prema, love of God. The 7th verse describes is what takes us from Bhajanakriya to uh, Nishtha, and or basically the chanting of the holy names will take us from Bhajana Kriya to Anartha Nivritti to Nishtha, which basically means, if you have not heard these terms, the holy name will purify us and and remove our deceased condition and qualifies us for next level of devotion, which is introduced for the first time in this verse here. And we saw in our previous discussion on the 7th verse where our current condition is a diseased condition, uh, because like Prabhupada would say, we have been associated with this material world since time immemorial, and that's how we have developed these qualities of lust and greed. So this is a foreign nature we have acquired, because by nature the soul in the spiritual world is pure. Just like one of the example given, the rainwater is very pure, but the rainwater, when it comes and touches the ground, it mixes with the mud and becomes like kichad, for those who don't like swam or muddy water, or very dirty water. But when it is in the sky, it is pure rainwater. Likewise, the spirit soul, the example is given from the perspective the spirit soul is pure when it was in the spiritual world, but when it falls down and comes in contact with the material world, it becomes contaminated by the modes within this material world. And now, since we were in these dealing with material nature since time immemorial, there have been a disease condition which is compared to jaundice in the 7th verse. And then it says, and it is for us like it is compared to ignorance, avidya, or um, uh, we have forgotten our spiritual identity, our spiritual relationship, our spiritual service, and then we have come to identify us with this material world and attraction and attachments to this material world. And this is because we have forgotten ourselves. So then we are trying to enjoy in a uh, uh, in an artificial environment. Just like I think I spoke last week, it's like illusion like just like a dream, which is basically illusion within an illusion. Likewise, this material world is the identification is an illusion. Material world is not illusory, it is real, but our identification is illusory, that's why it's called ignorance, which is compared to jaundice. But just like we saw how the jaundice is cured by the chanting of the holy names, likewise this ignorance is cured by the chanting of the holy names. So this chanting of Prabhupada was so merciful. Uh, Yesterday we celebrated the appearance day of Srila Prabhupada. It's also called Vyasa Puja. Why it's called Vyasa Puja? Because Vyasadev refers to Vyasadev, was the original author of the Vedic scriptures. Um, and there is a day in a year which is called Guru Purnima, which is basically the appearance day of Vyasadev. And in our tradition, we call Vyasa Puja, or basically uh, the day of celebrating and glorifying and expressing our gratitude to Guru, which is uh, basically for us. Yesterday it was Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja appearance day. So Prabhupada was so merciful. Uh, Before Srila Prabhupada, it was like one has to chant 64 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. And Saraswati Thakur, he would say, anybody who doesn't chant 64 rounds is considered fallen. Saraswati Thakur says. Mahaprabhu himself, it is mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat that the recommendation is one to chant 64 rounds. But Prabhupada was so merciful. Prabhupada said, I will guarantee you back to Godhead if you simply chant 16 rounds. This is only an Acharya can do. Otherwise, it is not possible. Uh, just by chanting 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra daily, you will attain perfection. So merciful was His divine grace. Understanding that how, as this age progresses, it will become increasingly difficult for people to take up that much chanting of the holy names. Those who can do it is most recommended, but otherwise, Prabhupada made it just 16 rounds and you will attain perfection. So this chanting of every day of the holy name will eventually release us from this disease condition of ignorance, uh, and will remove all the anarthas. So anartha nivritti means the stage when anarthas are eradicated. Um, uh, that is attained just by the medium of holy name. Holy name, it is said, the three key things for holy name. One is uh, posture, basically sitting straight, not in a sleeping position or in a uh, lazy couch. We can sit on a couch also if we want to, but it should be firm and we should be able to sit straight, whatever is comfortable. We should be able to be in an attentive position. One is posture, one is pronunciation. Pronunciation should be clear. We should not try to rush the holy name. We should not try to finish the holy name. We should not try to just get done with it, but we should really sincerely uh, hear try to hear the mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So there has to be clear pronunciation. When we try to rush, sometimes the Hare Hare gets missed, or we feel like we are just rushing. Then it's not highly recommended. So one is pronunciation, one is posture, and one is pace. Chant at almost the same pace, whatever it is. Slow, fast, whatever works for you. It's up to you. So chanting should be taken as the most important and the highest priority thing, and should be done with utmost attention for the effect to take place sooner. And gradually, this chanting, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpana Marjana, will cleanse the heart. So then we come to today's verse now. after the like it is described how the sugarcane juice, which is sweet like nectar, tastes like bitter in a jaundiced state. Likewise, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is the sweetest thing, uh, Madhura Madhure Bhyopi, which is the most madhur, sweetest thing, taste bitter in a diseased condition. And as we continue chanting, the absorption in the holy name will gradually increase. And that is directly proportionate to how when our um, anarthas goes down, our absorption in holy name will increase. There is no shortcut. It will come gradually with progress. Gradually with progress. Uh, and now let's. So this is the verse today. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the divines, the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, and thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Braja, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Now, what I will do is I will who are deeply attached to his devotional service. This is, I mean, I'm not qualified definitely to speak on this verse. This is a very high verse to speak on. But then now we are talking about a stage which is beyond all the anarthas, which is a very deep stage of devotional service. Then why are we discussing if we're not qualified? Just to have an understanding of what we may end up in doing at some point of time in the future, and just to know the goal and then aspire. I just a desire. I wish I could do sadhana like that. I could render devotional service like that. So the essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. So one a stage may come when one can remember Lord Krishna always. His either his name, his form, his qualities, or his pastimes. His name means when you are chanting, you are hearing the name and you are deriving the pleasure just by hearing the name, because the name of Lord Krishna is transcendental. And to the extent we are purified, we can experience the divinity just by hearing the name, nothing else. And then as we further progresses, then we will be able to remember while chanting the form of the Lord, or the qualities of the Lord, or the pastimes of the Lord. And if one can utilize one's 24 hours by engaging one's tongue and mind in remembering Lord Krishna's uh, name, form, qualities, pastimes. So that's Rupa Goswami's essence, like his summary, and he is telling the essence of all advice is that one come to the stage of doing that. This is the essence of all the instruction. And these verses are gradual. After the seventh verse, the holy name. So that's why, in the beginning, we uh, try to absorb ourselves in the holy name. Even if we are not able to absorb, force ourselves. That's what Lord Krishna says, Abhyasena tu Kauntaya. When Arjuna says, I cannot control the mind, then Lord Krishna says, yes, you practice. So mind is supposed to be trained. And that's how um, we push ourselves we force ourselves to hear the holy name. In this way, one should reside in Braja, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. Um, um, And here, okay, I think this is sufficient. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Now, it can be seen in two ways. One way is one should follow in the footsteps of Lord beloved devotees. So there are multiple stages of devotional service. It is described that in the beginning, our Ishtadev is our Guru, Gurudev. Gurudev is our Ishtadev. Ishtadev means the sole uh, object of affection, or uh, the sole object of inspiration. Uh, that is Guru. Uh, so one should follow in the footsteps of Lord beloved devotees. Basically, in our beginning stages, it is we hear continuously from a spiritual master and try to follow the instruction. Try to follow the instruction. Try to follow the instruction. When it comes to the when we attain, because in the beginning, even affection for Lord Krishna is not there. It is. I mean, we cannot artificially love Krishna. So the sole object of our affection is Shri Guru. And then, as we progress, the affection for Shri Guru deepens. In the beginning, we may not be able to connect, but we dedicate our life to Shri Guru. Gradually, the affection for our Shri Guru will increase, and simultaneously, the affection for Lord Krishna will grow. Like, when we make progress, because Guru is described as Sakshad Haritva, as uh, non-different in quality than Krishna, Shri Guru. So affection for Shri Guru and Shri Krishna will gradually increase. Gratitude for Shri Guru and Shri Krishna will gradually increase. And then everything is done, our spiritual life from beginning till the very end, everything is done under the guidance of Shri Guru. That's why, and obviously, we cannot make progress until we have a spiritual master. And then we become attached to Krishna, and then we become attached to the residents or Vrajvasis or the associates of Lord Krishna. We become attached. Everything happens simultaneously. Our affection to Sri Guru will increase, our affection to Lord Krishna will increase, and then our affection to um, associates of Lord Krishna will increase. Just like, think from this perspective, when Srila Prabhupada came to the West, all the disciples or all the people who were taking up Krishna consciousness, their affection was only to Prabhupada. They did not take to Krishna consciousness because they loved Lord Krishna. They in fact never heard Lord Krishna. Or they did not take to Krishna consciousness. That's a very advanced stage where they have affection for the associate of Lord Krishna. But they took up Krishna consciousness just because they saw that Prabhupada was authentic. They found very happy, like around him, very divine experiences they would get. And, they were becoming internally happy, and they dedicated their life to Srila Prabhupada. And gradually, the affection for Prabhupada will increase. Now, like spiritual master, the affection for Prabhupada is immense. And simultaneously, they have love for Krishna and love for a particular associate of Lord Krishna also. So our object of affection starts from Sri Guru, and gradually, including Sri Guru, expands to various aspects. I'm just giving a very quick summary, and then I will explain as we go in more detail, because the verse is very complex. Um, then what happens is um, uh, one follows. This is in simple words.
I have one
One
question.
follow in the footstep.
Prabhuji, I have one question to you.
Go ahead, Matas.
You said that Prabhupada disciple developed the relationship because they got attached to Prabhupada. It's not because they were attached to Krishna.
So they developed their attachment because they got personalization of Prabhupada. But now, like all Maharaj, they all are so busy. They don't. I mean, we don't get the opportunity to get personalization with them. So how we should develop attachment?
And
Hearing
Mataji,
Bani and all will take some time, Prabhuji.
well, it begins with general instruction. It begins with affection and attachment to any sadhu. How, I mean, for them, it was Srila Prabhupada. But for us, it is like we become connected, attached, affection, some form other appreciation, maybe from the smallest degree to whatever degree it may be. It begins with a devotee association. And then we develop faith that, okay, these people are nice people. It can be any Sangha anywhere in the world. It began with association. And then we develop some faith that these people are genuine. Like there is one Westerner here. He came to Rath Yatra, and then he saw like there were all our devotees from Farmington Hills and Detroit, and on the street, Rath Yatra, big festival, everybody was absorbed in calling out Krishna through his holy name from their heart. And he said, like, I have never seen such genuine devotion anywhere in my life, in this world, in my experiences. And then just that one instance kind of um, encouraged him to join our Krishna house and experience deeper devotion. Just one instance of seeing hundreds of devotees calling out to Lord Krishna. So it's the Sangha. I mean, for initial time, Mataji, like before ISKCON, now ISKCON, if you see, it is like, very widespread, and the spiritual masters are like diamonds, generally speaking. But that time, they got personalization of Prabhupada, they got attached to Prabhupada. Same thing happens in our life through some devotee Sangha. And those devotees act as a stepping stone to eventually um, our connection will become attached to our Diksha Gurus, Shri Guru, which is essentially the same principle. But what I'm trying to say is, in the beginning, the connection or the affection, the object of affection starts with Shri Guru in any form, sadhus in any form, and then it gradually expands. Then maybe Diksha Guru will come in life. He will take lot of affection. Lord Krishna will come. Lord Krishna's associate will come, and that will gradually grow. Did I address matter?
Yes, Prabhuji. But my concern is now you saying that we should have a connection with devotees because they are a stepping stone. But Prabhuji, although we have a devotee association, but we don't have that personal connection. Then what should we do in that case?
Yeah, actually, somehow or other, it may not be possible to have relationship with everyone, but then we will have relationship with some devotees. And then it just begins with a small crevice, and then gradually it will expand. Now, for example, I can say that in Farmington Hills, I went to Farmington Hills, there were like, like so many devotees. But then I have relationship with very, very few, kind of, like very close relationship, very close affection I have with very few of them. So it's okay. Um, just like, like how I can say that I began my Krishna consciousness in India, and then I was connected to one devotee in India, and then that devotee showed me a lot of affection and care, and then that became my to-go point for my Krishna conscious instructions guidance. And then I continued from there, and then further, and then further, and then further, and then it expands. And actually, when I came to US, I was not connected to any devotees here. But that devotee he would live in Vrindavan. So he still became my source of inspiration that time. At some point of time, through some connection, we continue. And it's our expansion of Krishna consciousness. As our Krishna consciousness expands, the affection will expand to um, more personalities, um, and more equals, and eventually as we become purified, it will start increasing to Krishna. Further love aheads Krishna associates, and its gradual progression. Did I address Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So it begins with Shri Guru. Then the purpose of Shri Guru is to glorify Krishna and gradually help us increase our affection for Krishna, who is the ultimate object of affection. Um, and then our affection becomes more and more. We hear more and more about Krishna. Um, and then we hear about Krishna's associate. Slowly, we also become the basically the most advanced stage is when we become attached to an associate of Lord Krishna. This is what this verse is practically speaking, that serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees, and one should follow the footsteps of Lord's beloved devotees. One will not be able to follow the footsteps of Lord beloved devotees. Now, Lord beloved devotees begins with Shri Guru, sadhus, Shri Guru, and then expands to the eternal associate of Lord Krishna. The idea is we are always following the footsteps. We are always under guidance. The day will not come when we are serving Krishna not under guidance. Here it says, in this way, one should reside in Vraja and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of Lord's beloved devotees and are deeply attached to his devotional service. Our object of affection is devotional service to Lord Krishna, but devotional service to Lord Krishna is always under guidance. That guidance will, the personality under whom we are taking guidance, or whom we are inspired by, that will keep increasing. It begins with sadhus, begins with spiritual master, and then goes to the eternal associates of Lord Krishna also. It can be Srimati Radharani, who naturally we all have intense affection for her. Then associates of Srimati Radharani, Balaram, can be um, friends of Krishna, can be Yashoda Maya. It may be some of the associates of Lord Krishna. Then, at a very advanced stage, we render devotional service following the footsteps of those devotees. So this, and then even once we come, so it's very deep subject matter, and this is the first time we're discussing this subject matter, and I want devotees to see if they are able to gather this concept theoretically. um, for example, if somebody is very much attracted to how Mother Yashoda serves Krishna, um, uh, then it may it may happen that at the end of at the at when we attain perfection, we may eternally serve Lord Krishna under guidance of Mother Yashoda. It may happen. Or we may eternally serve Lord Krishna under guidance of Srimati Radharani, or we may eternally serve Lord Krishna under the guidance of Sri Balaram. They're all, I mean, it can be any associate. It can be associate under them. It can be any associate, but we are always serving Krishna under guidance of somebody. Um, and then these things are like today, whatever it is, it changes. Like the principle of guidance is very important, and the object of guidance may change. Now, let me say from this perspective, like um, um, okay, let's take this particular example, that we meet some sadhus, we take shiksha from them, Then maybe we go to a different location. Then we are inspired by some other devotees. We may take Shiksha from them. It is described we can have millions of Shiksha Gurus, unlimited. Whoever inspires us, take some, become some from our Shiksha Gurus. We are always taking inspiration and guidance from some Vaishnava. They keep on changing. Simultaneously, Diksha Guru is one. So our affection for Diksha Guru remains continuous. And then under guidance of our Siksha and Diksha Gurus, we go closer to Lord Krishna. When we develop a lot of affection for Lord Krishna, then we start gradually developing affection for the associate of Lord Krishna, like Mother Yashoda, Srimati Radharani, or Balaram. And then we are very much inspired by the way they render devotional service. Everything is based on inspiration. In the beginning, it begins with a sadhu, and then how our spiritual master renders devotional service, very inspiring. Um, and then maybe an associate of Lord Krishna, how they render devotional service, very inspiring. And then we are always trying to follow the footsteps. It is generalized. Prabhupada had generalized it here, saying that one should follow in the footsteps of Lord beloved devotees and are deeply attached to his devotional service, serving Krishna under the guidance of Lord's beloved devotees. And those devotees may expand from sadhus to Sri Guru to an associate of Lord Krishna. Okay, so how are we doing? Does anyone has any question? Okay, so it will be further clarified as we go more and more in detail. This is a little bit complicated to understand, but that this gives, it will gradually gives a clear understanding of what happens when anarthas are removed, and we have developed a very deep taste for the holy name. The ignorance, the disease condition, the jaundice is removed, and the um, sugarcane juice tastes very sweeter, or when the holy name becomes very sweet. And then what happens after that is this is what we are talking about in this particular verse. So let's see, let's begin. So mind, how to train and why to train. We will discuss these two things. So first, why to train. Train mind to always think of Krishna, because it is described that mind is our friend and our enemy. So we want to train the mind so that it can become our friend. Then um, mind has previous impressions and contradictory impressions, um, which is coming from the past. So those have to be purified. Um, it's dangerous because if we have previous impressions and if they're not very positive, and if that's what we remember at the time of death, then um, um, this mind plays a big role at the time of death. And Lord Krishna describes whatever we remember at the time of death, that's the form we attain. So we want to bring the mind out of all the critical mentalities, disturbances, fault finding nature, previous bad impressions, and make him to love Krishna. So that's why we have to train the mind, and that's a responsibility that we take. Like today, um, I was driving in the morning with one devotee somewhere to get something, and then he was asking that how and when that stage comes where the mind is no more disturbs us. And he was sharing how in the beginning, I mean, externally, it seems like everything is peaceful. There is a nice smile on our face. We're talking nicely, but the mind is very critical internally. So that subtle body needs to be purified. Uh, and we see that even okay, then the mind has the ability, we think using our mind, And if we think of Krishna, then we go back to spiritual world. And if we not think of Krishna, then based on what we think, that decides our next birth. So mind is a very critical element in our devotional service. And here Rupa Goswami says that one should use one's mind and tongue to remember Lord Krishna in any way, through his name, form, qualities, pastime, but to remember Lord Krishna, we have to use our mind and tongue. Now we can use our tongue, but then more important is to use our mind actually, because the purpose of using our tongue is for the mind to listen to the holy name. Otherwise the tongue is chanting the holy name but the mind is somewhere else. So mind has to be trained. Mind mind based on association, mind develops. So because of the association with material nature and all those anarthas, mind has become contaminated, and now we take the responsibility and it has become our enemy now. In a way, it wants things other than Krishna, and it says no to Krishna conscious activity. So then we have to train the mind to become our friend. Otherwise, you know, mind will take us somewhere in this material world. So Srila Sukadev Goswami from Bhagavatam, he says, "My dear king, you have spoken correctly. However, after capturing animals, a cunning hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they always remain vigilant and watch the mind's action." So, just recently, few days back, I was having a 2 hours drive with one of the devotee. We were driving for Janmashtami celebration in that temple. So I was driving with him and he was opening his heart and he was sharing, Prabhu, that in the first beginning 3 years, I was very strict with myself, uh, and I was very careful in my devotional service. This is naturally seen. And then after a few years, now I feel like I have become weaker, and I'm not so strict anymore. Um, and once in a while I give in to the demands of my mind. So how do we overcome this phase of not giving up to the demands of the mind? And that's commonly seen. So that's why Sukadev Goswami, he gives this example that mind is not our friend. There is a need to train the mind today, tomorrow, and after 5 years. And actually, this is a very deep topic. I don't know. It may be relevant to some and it may not be relevant to others. But I will share it anyways for our general understanding. The example given here is when a hunter captures the lion, the hunter is very careful because the lion is a dangerous animal. And then, the lion is actually to some point of time, he will become trained. You will see the lion in the circus and he may do whatever the hunter says. But then at some point of time, if the if the hunter becomes too casual with the lion and thinks lion as my friend prematurely, then lion may actually kill the hunter. That's why even if while training the lion, the hunter should be very careful and vigilant. So likewise, what happens is uh, it's commonly seen in our spiritual life that first 2 3 years devotees are very strict in chanting, very strict in hearing, very strict in not engaging the mind anywhere in non-devotional activities. Sincere devotees are very strict with their mind. But slowly, one may start losing oneself. Uh, but and like um, my spiritual master says, Maya takes drop by drop, drop by drop, drop by drop. So one is very strict in the beginning, and then one may allow oneself to engage the mind in a non-devotional activity in one step. Like our pitfalls. We all have our pitfalls. We may be very strict with our pitfalls in the beginning, but then if we are not very careful, um, then we may allow the mind to find enjoyment somewhere, which is a non-Krishna conscious devotional activity, and then um, uh, Maya is very tricky. So Maya may convince us this is still a Krishna conscious activity. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And that's how slowly Maya makes us weaker. And we don't realize day one, day two, or day three. We realize after few months or few years that actually I have lost where I should have supposed to be. And that's why one has to be very vigilant. Uh, that's why, I mean, yeah. So here Sukadev Goswami recommendation. That's why sharing heart revelation, sharing guidance helps. Um, because how our mind is tricking, probably the mind has, is the nature of the mind, and um, it helps to um, um, be be open, and it helps to receive guidance on those subject matter, just so that we can stay fixed on the path of devotional service. um, this, it's a very deep subject matter. I'm trying to very simply present it here. um, it is said that one should not hide anything from a doctor, and from our sadhus or spiritual teachers or devotees with whom we feel confident revealing our mind and confidence, who are not there to judge us. It's good to reveal and then be fixed on the path of devotional service. In other words, the mind is meant to be trained. We owe the responsibility of making the mind Krishna conscious. And then we have to be vigilant, we have to be careful where the mind is trying to escape, escape from not being in Krishna's zone. um, um, and then we may also become weak over a period of time in our Krishna consciousness. So this path of devotional life is actually not easy, um, um, because there are so many pitfalls. But at the same time, um, um, Lord Krishna guides, Lord Krishna helps. If we just stay on the path, naturally everything Krishna will make arrangements in our life that He will rectify us. So that's why mind has to be trained. Then this is another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. As the learned scholars have given their opinion, the mind is by nature very restless, and one should not make friends with it. We should not prematurely think that mind is my friend now, and one should not make friend. Rather, one has to be strict with one's mind. If we place full confidence in the mind, it may cheat us at any moment. If we think that, yeah, now I'm free from all the anarthas, now I can do whatever and I will still remain Krishna conscious and I know the philosophy. So this is like placing full confidence in the mind, and the mind may cheat us at any moment. Even Lord Shiva became agitated upon seeing the Mohini form of Lord Krishna, and Saubhari Muni also fell down from the mature stage of yogic perfection. So Lord Shiva, when he saw the Mohini Murti form of Lord Vishnu, he became agitated. And another example is Saubhari Muni. He was very strict. He would perform severe austerities under the water, and then he saw the two fishes. They were mating. They were kind of mating with each other, or basically sex life. But it was two fishes who were having that engagement, and Saubhari Muni became very agitated, and then he came out of the water. He had mystic siddhi. That's how he could stay within the water and perform his austerities. But he became agitated. He came out. He went to the king of Mandhata, and then he um, married his 50 daughters. And then later on, he again became a self-realized soul when he realized how he became more and more kind of away from his remembering the Lord. And then by Lord's guidance, after he realized, he with his family life, he became a self-realized soul later on. But the idea is, if one is not careful with the mind, then the mind may cheat us. And there are many ways the mind may trick us. Because the thing is, in this age of Kali, there are so many opportunities for sense gratification, which is not healthy for our Krishna consciousness. And who will take our responsibility? So that's why it is also said that this age of Kali is the age of hypocrisy. Age of hypocrisy means there is something where I find pleasure which devotees don't know, which nobody knows, and or a life which is in front of devotees, and a personal life which is personal, and where I find my solace in, and that increases our hypocritical nature. So this is the nature, this is the quality of age of Kali. That's why it is described to make progress in our spiritual life. Sincerity is important. Sincerity means we are doing everything favorable to Krishna, and we are carefully avoiding things which are unfavorable to Krishna. Uh, and nothing happens very gross, but there are little small things that Paramatma guides us. And the Lord is sitting in our heart, and Lord knows our pitfalls. Okay, this is where we are becoming weaker. This is where we are becoming weaker. And it is said, we all have our own weaknesses. And Maya, full mind spiritual master describes this, that Maya knows our weaknesses. And Maya will, if you're not very careful, then Maya will creep in through our weaknesses, either grossly or subtly, or even sometimes in a Krishna conscious way. Maya may creep in. And it's like we hear from Bhagavad Gita that the more we feed the anartha, the stronger they become. It's like putting fuel into the fire, and the fire burns more strongly. Likewise, um, um, we may, likewise, it's very subtle and very tricky. And that's why what really helps is reading Srila Prabhupada books on daily basis, and hearing from devotees on regular basis really helps to kind of be on the right track, because it's very easy to deviate. Um, 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 and especially with our, mind has so much from the past, and now we are trying to live a pure life, and the mind is always looking for a way to escape, from Krishna conscious zone. And that's why the mind needs to be trained. Um, then this is an example of Sobari Muni. I can explain this concept also. Um, he saw two fishes. He was under the water and he was agitated, deeply agitated. Uh, so this was actually because Sobri Muni was a very highly advanced spiritualist, but then um, he offended Lord Vishnu's dear devotee Garuda. Garuda is actually carrier of Lord Vishnu. He's an eagle. He's a bird, but he's a very large bird. And Lord Vishnu comes, he travels on him. So Saubari Muni, he offended Garuda. This story comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. And as the result of that offense, Saubari Muni, although he was very sense controlled, he was agitated just by seeing the fish. So this is one way how we become weak, is if we offend some devotees. These there are so many. This devotional service requires a very clear understanding. Even one who has become very pure, uh, and almost free from all the anarthas of lust and greed and envy, can still be attacked by all these things as a result of offending a Vaishnava. It is described that when one offends a Vaishnava, the subtle body is disturbed, and the Maya becomes stronger um, um, in our life, and it becomes so strong that we won't be able to tolerate. When Maya attacks, no philosophy will work. Nothing will work. When Maya attacks, she is very, very forceful. I mean, even if we try our best, nothing will work because the emotions are so high when Maya attacks. So that is actually many times the result of some devotees are displeased with us, and it requires a spiritual intellect to be able to understand how the way things are happening is connected to some form of uh, um, it now mind may be agitated even either because of our past impressions or because of an offense. There can be multiple reasons. I'm not saying there is one or the other reason, but I'm presenting that here is a case of Saubari Muni, and this is what happened to him. Then this is another example. Um, so there was uh, okay, I will try to explain it. Those who know Arjuna and Yudhishthir Maharaj and their uh, father was Pandu. And one time he was hunting and he saw a male and female deer, and they were making love to each other. And then he shot an arrow because he was hunting, and then he killed the male deer. The male deer was in pool of blood. That was kind of Kshatriya art at that point of time. So it turned out that they both were sages, male and female sages, husband wife, and they were saints, great saints, and they were making love to each other in they have mystical powers, so they took the form of a deer and they were making love to each other, and he was just hunting. He shot an arrow to male deer. He came into his original position of a sage and his wife into a female sage, and the male sage, the sadhu, he left the body in front of his wife. She became very angry and she cursed Maharaj Pandu that if ever you try to make love um, with anyone in your life, then um, you will die. Uh, because, yeah, basically because she wanted to curse him back. And then later on, in this particular story, Maharaj Pandu was the king. The kingdom is actually, or the leading is a um, Kshatriya uh, kind of function. And Kshatriyas are influenced by mode of passion. So goodness is Brahmanas, goodness and passion is Kshatriyas, because you need that for the fighting spirit. For that, you need to be a fighter to be a leader. Kind of, you need to have that spirit within you to make things right. Because the thing with leadership or ruling is there are many unwanted elements, and then they have to be defeated for the protection of the people we are leading, and that requires a Kshatriya spirit within us. So ruling a kingdom means you need to have a strong Kshatriya spirit. um, and then he know that if I engage in any form of sex life or making love, then that's the end of my life, because he was cursed. So he left the kingdom, he came to the forest. He was living in his forest with his two wives, Kunti and uh, uh, what's the name of his other wife? Kunti and anyone remembers? Second wife of Maharaj Pandu. Oh, the mother of Nakul and Sahadev.
Madhuri.
Yeah, Madhuri. Yes, thank you. So Kunti and Madhuri, and then they both were very. They know that our husband is cursed, so they both wanted to dress themselves in a way, present themselves in a way that they don't cause any agitation to Maharaj Pandu, because otherwise uh, it's like we will become widows. And at some point of time in the forest, uh, Madhuri could not tolerate himself, and Maharaj Pandu could not tolerate himself. Madhuri could not tolerate herself. So they both united and that was the death of Maharaj Pandu. So it is described that this, previous impressions are so strong that even a saintly king like Maharaj Pandu found it difficult to tolerate, because these urges are very strong. So, and all these impressions are within the mind, and we are trying to render devotional service with the mind. And the mind needs to be trained. So this is the curse of Pandu by sage Kindama. That was his name, and here we see he was killed by Maharaj Pandu. And this is Maharaj Pandu and Madari in the forest, and that resulted in the death of Maharaj Pandu. So here is another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. An unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours, and it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramours. If the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, his mind will give facility to enemies like lust, anger, and greed, and they will doubtlessly kill the yogi. So, not going in detail, the example here given is the sometime an unchaste woman, she is very much attracted to another lover other than husband, or attraction, affection for another man. So that's unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours. And it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramour. Sometimes it happens. Like she is affectionate to a paramour, and the paramour sometimes kill the husband. This is Sukadev Goswami is giving an example of how dangerous is the mind if you don't take care of the mind. Likewise, if a yogi can give in to the mind's demand, then the mind may kill the yogi or kill the soul. Or in other words, um, um, if we listen to the mind's demands and then act on the mind's demands, then that is very, very detrimental for our spiritual life. So that's where this word comes, sincerity. Sincere, being sincere, being sincere, being sincere means do what is favorable for Krishna consciousness. Don't do what is not favorable for Krishna consciousness. Two kinds of devotees: those who are without material desires, those who are with material desires. So those who are without material desires are very, very dear to Lord Krishna. So, just being sincere in our spiritual life, and that requires one to be very vigilant with one's mind and very careful in one's devotional service. The mind is a root cause of lust, anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. Combine these constitute bondage to fruitive activity. What learned man would put faith in the mind? So the mind is a root cause of all these things: lust, anger, pride, greed, material greed, lamentation, illusion, fear. There are so many ways the mind is kind of putting us in these different emotions. And together, all these illusion, fear, lamentation, greed, pride, anger, lust, it engages us in material activities, these forces of the mind. So there's a question asked by Sukadev Goswami that what learned man would put faith in the mind? So we see many instructions of how one must be vigilant with the mind, especially as years progresses, one may become weak in the mind. And there are many contemporary examples also, how if one is not very careful with the mind, then the mind will pull us in a non-devotional direction. So now, how to train the mind? It is described. 5 things are described here based on Srimad Bhagavatam. One is take shelter of devotees, and this is from Raghunath Das Goswami. He says, lust, anger, and so on are a band of dacoits who assail one suddenly on the open road of material life. So just like if we are driving and we meet a group of dacoits, then those dacoits will kind of rob us. Likewise, lust, anger, greed, they are like a band of dacoits. So we are moving in our Krishna consciousness and we are trying to deepen our sadhana, make progress in our spiritual life. And if we are not careful, then these dacoits are lust, anger, envy. And then the mind may give in to these things and act on those things. Um, and then they will rob us. They will rob us of our spiritual strength. They will make us weak. Definitely, when we act on the lower nature, it we compromise our spiritual strength. Becomes very difficult. And also another example Lord Krishna says is like putting fuel into the fire. The fire is the fire of devotional service. And then if we give in to the mind's demands, then we are like putting fuel into the fire. We burn for it. And the desire to engage in non-devotional activities will increase. That's how she will take drop by drop. She will make us exposed to something very little, and then little bit more, and then little bit more, and then little bit more, and then our duration or our exposure to non-devotional activities may gradually increase if we are not careful, and then it gradually leads to uh, um, making us weaker in our spiritual life. There are some examples that I cannot share in this association, but um, one has to be vigilant. So here, Raghunath Goswami compares to lust, anger, greed as dacoits who are there to rob our spiritual strength. So they have bound my neck licentiously with the torturous, dreadful ropes of wicked deeds and thus killing me. So Raghunath Das Goswami, in a humble position, he is telling that this lust, anger, envy, they have bound my neck licentiously with the torturous, dreadful ropes of wicked deeds. Like, they are forcing me, these dacoits, this lust and envy, they have captured me and they are torturing me to wicked deeds. They are forcing me to sinful activities. They are forcing me to, you know, uh, forcing me in a direction which is not pleasing to Lord Krishna, to Sri Guru. They are pushing me in that direction. So what do? I am helpless. I am being captured uh, by these dacoits. O mind, speaking in this way, you must grievously cry out to the powerful and merciful devotees who are the protectors on the path of devotion leading to Sri Krishna, the killer of Bakasura. Hearing your piteous cry, they will surely protect you from such a condition. So Raghunath Das Goswami is telling, genuinely, grievously cry out to powerful and merciful devotees who are protectors on the path of devotion. So he is telling, when these anarthas, they are becoming very heavy on me, when these dacoits, they are robbing my sincerity, they are robbing my seriousness in Krishna consciousness, then I should take shelter of, I should cry out to devotees and take shelter of devotees. Please help me. Please help me in this situation. It is becoming too difficult for me. And then what happens? So they are it. Raghunath Das Goswami is describing them as very powerful. Powerful means, if there are dacoits, so naturally dacoits are more powerful than us, and that's why they're robbing us. And then when dacoits are robbing us, we are kind of helpless, because if we are very powerful, then we can fight with the dacoits and defeat the dacoits. But it seems like this lust and envy, they are much more powerful than me. Then we need to take shelter of the powerful devotees who can pray to Krishna and who can give us strength so these dacoits may leave us. In other words, when we take shelter of devotees, that There is a lot of envy in my heart. There is a lot of lust in my heart. There is a lot of pride in my heart. There is a lot of this, there is a lot of this. And then somehow this Vaishnava association, this Sangha, and just the concept of revealing our mind to devotees helps us to, gives us a unknown strength that helps us to deal with the situation. How this happens? Just Krishna is very pleased, and Maya is Krishna's energy. So Krishna is very pleased by the act of taking guidance, taking shelter, confiding confidentially, um, just the concept of Vaishnava Sangha. And if Krishna so desires, Maya will leave us. Because Krishna says, I am the Adhyaksh, I am the superintendent of this material energy. Then there is um, rendering service. Rendering service means this helps us to like uh, when we are absorbed, in serving Krishna, we will see that um, these dacoits will not be very powerful, which is also kind of explained from the perspective of no free time, because when we are free, there's something like empty minds, devil's workshop. So when we are not busy, then again the previous impressions may come back. So one must be engaged in learning service. Then we have attentive chanting, and then we have defeat the mind using the intellect. Intellect is sharpened by reading Shrimad Bhagavatam. So with the intellect, we um, basically, if we read Shrimad Bhagavatam, or if our intellect is very sharp, then we will know that this is not good for me. The mind is like a child, he's crying, I want this, I want this. And intellect is like, okay, how do I not let the mind get it, what it wants? Intellect is like, how can I be in a more safer environment? So various ways. Krishna says, train the mind using the higher authority, and one of the higher authorities, Shri Guru, one of the higher authorities, intelligence. One has to train the mind with one's own intelligence, but that requires a spiritual strength within us, and that requires a sharp intellect of discrimination of what is right and what is wrong. If our intellect is not very sharp, then we won't be able to discriminate between right and wrong. And the last thing it says is neglect. Srila Prabhupada says the mind can be trained by neglect. Neglect means the mind is presenting something, and you don't take the mind very seriously, and you just try to change your activity. The mind is becoming very heavy. Like one time, one devotee said, when the mind is very disturbed, just go out for a walk, japa walk, or talk to some devotees, or basically break that chain of thought process and engage in somewhere else. So I guess, so I guess that's all we discussed today. I just saw it's 11:26, and we see if there is some discussion we can take at this point of time. Okay, so I think then we can end here. Thank you all very much for your Sangha. Vanchakalpatarubhesha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnavendra ki jai. Shri Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Danvat
Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Danvat Pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.